Good morning. How are you? Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me, John?
That's only if you want to join in on it. Don't do that, and you technically should be.
Good morning, John. Can you hear me?
Good morning, sweetheart. I hear you.
Okay. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. Welcome to Entrepreneur. And we're going to get
Kim's
started.
putting my shoes on right now.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
All right. Good morning, everybody.
And we're going to say good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur for Christ class. We're going to get started here. Thank you for joining us. We have Anton Siler going to speak today. He's our digital marketing SEO expert, we call him.
Yes, he is. That's one business.
And we're going to open in prayer. I know some of you are still connecting, but thank you. We have one on Zoom right now.
That's perfect. Perfect.
And Anton's got his own mic today. So guess what? I have mine.
Oh, we both. Give me
Okay, we're going to start this class. It's 10:33 and we have people. Good morning. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Come close if you like. We're going to start this morning.
She doesn't bite, I promise.
I have a mic. Can you hear me in the back there? Yay.
Well, we got somebody that might need to slip out, so they're hanging out.
Okay. And we're just going to open this class in prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the good times that you give us each day, Lord. And through trials and tribulations, we learn more about your loving grace and mercy. I thank you for all the wealth and peace and harmony that you give us in our families, Lord. And I just pray that we can use it for your kingdom as we move forward on this planet Earth, Lord. And I pray for those that aren't in the classroom, but watching by Zoom or who may want to be here, Lord, just enlighten them and give them strength and purpose, Lord. And I pray that this class will move forward for your honor and your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, guys. How you guys doing today? Good, good. Good morning to everybody out there in Zoom land. I know there's a portion of you joining us remotely. We really do appreciate you guys doing that. And we do encourage anybody who doesn't have a chance to catch the full presentation or just wants to catch the replay or wants to share it. We do upload these things to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, the Entrepreneuring for Christ YouTube channel. We have all those connections on our website. If you guys go to bizforchrist.com, B-I-Z, the number 4, the word Christ.com, you'll be able to connect into everything that we've got going on from there. So without further ado, today's presentation is all about Quora. So Quora, who's heard of that website before? Show of hands. Okay, great. We do have some people that are aware of what Quora is. Excellent. So Quora, for the uninitiated, Quora is an American-based question and answering website. And there's a bunch of those out there. This one seems to be a cut above most. They definitely have some very basic layouts, and it's not aesthetically rich, but it gets the job done. Everything is indexable there. So like when you write a question, somebody writes a response, that actually gets indexed by the search engines. So these become valuable from an SEO perspective, which I'll get into in a little bit. But one of the things that really sets Quora out from the rest is that you can upvote and downvote responses, which is basically a public way of kind of validating, is this an appropriate response? Does it meet the needs of the question? That kind of thing. So there are some rules and guidelines to writing on Quora, but more or less, provide a thoughtful response with as much information that you can, supporting links, images, that kind of thing, and answer people's questions. The website itself, it ranks 80th for global search traffic according to Alexia. Now, Alexia is one of those websites that you may or may not have heard of, but it gets kicked around a lot in what I do personally with digital marketing. I'm not sure if any of you guys have heard it with what you do at your jobs and your businesses, but Alexa is definitely something to be aware of as far as the ranking of a website. So according to that, global traffic wise, Quora is 80th in the world. So daily visitors is one of the aspects that they use to quantify that, page views, and this is over the last 3 months. So Quora, just a few data points. It's got approximately 300 million active monthly users. So a lot of people all over the world are using this thing. Definitely gets a lot of traffic. The site has a 43 to 57 female to male ratio. So just a little bit more men than women going to the platform, but almost an even kill there. Now, adult users who are 18 years of age and older with a household income greater than $100,000 a year spend twice as much time on Quora than they do on LinkedIn. I know that's a mouthful, a lot of numbers, but ultimately what this is saying is that if somebody's pulling in at least 6 figures a year and they're at least 18 years of age, they're going to spend more time on Quora, actually twice as much on average than they do on LinkedIn. So if you're thinking about LinkedIn marketing, just trying to reach a certain community for business purposes, maybe Quora might be a better platform for you to look into, depending on what you're doing. So. Now, mobile generates the most impressions and click-throughs for Quora ads. So Quora did at one point initially not have ads. They've evolved into the typical online business model, so now they have ad space. You can buy those ads. They are worthwhile. You can see based on the numbers, there is plenty of traffic going to the website. Yes, sir.
Are you saying that Quora now is advertising?
Yes, you can get ads on Quora. Yeah, you can do that. Depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it, maybe that isn't the right approach. When we're talking about PPC and ads and all that stuff, that's a whole other conversation. But if you are looking at that for your ad spend, Quora might be a platform worth getting.
By region or by zip code?
I believe those are not things that you can filter by. Quora is so global that you would want to do that. Essentially, what you want to try to do with Quora is use that as we're going to get into this a little bit more, but ultimately Quora use from a writing answer perspective, and if you're a business or a business owner, there's a certain approach that you probably want to have to the platform. I wouldn't recommend just throwing a bunch of money at it with ad spend and hoping you're going to reach some people. I would, me personally, recommend that you use the platform for establishing authority, for basically getting your name out there as somebody who knows what you're talking about and an expert in your field. Those things translate into the kind of traffic that you want.
Wait a minute. So how do you become an expert on Quora? How do you present yourself as an expert on Quora?
Gonna get into that. I'm glad you asked this. Come with that. But just one last data point here. Users spend an average of 4 minutes and 11 seconds on Quora on average, which means depending on the length of the responses, they're reading a couple of these at a time. Not every response is as long, doesn't need to be. You'll see what I'm talking about here in just a minute. But that's just some of the data about the platform. There's plenty of other data points, but just to let you know on the top what's going on there. So the benefits of writing on Quora, kind of talking about what does this do? Why should I do it? Why waste your time? Well, top reason, if you're looking at this from a business perspective or a stream of income perspective, is you can actually get paid to write on Quora. Okay, being somebody who's got good responses, they're well put together, people upvote them, people are reading them. Those are all things that Quora is looking at because they need content producers, which you essentially are. It's no different than YouTube. On YouTube, you produce videos. YouTube makes money off of you as a content producer making those videos for them. They don't have to do like Netflix does, where they spend millions and millions of dollars producing content that may or may not work with people. They just sit back and let you do all the work. Quora is very similar, but on a text basis. They don't have to really do too much. They kind of let the world do the work for them. So when you reach a certain point with your writings, Quora will solicit you to write for them, and they will pay you for that. Now, it's something that they've solicited me on a few times. It takes a lot of time, and that's not time that I personally have had to give to it. So if you feel like time-wise, you could probably get some writings in on a regular basis, maybe that's an option for you. Okay, so from that perspective, there's some benefits there. Now, I had mentioned just a second ago as far as SEO. Now, writing on Quora is definitely good for your SEO. As I mentioned just a moment ago, all of these things are indexed by the search engines. Okay, so even though a response on Quora might rank you, might rank your business, might have some, some notable mentions about your website, those things, if they rank higher than your actual website does, isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, the goal with SEO, I should say, is to get on the highest page, page one, preferably of Google, all the major search engines, with whatever content, through whatever website you can. Ideally, you would like for it to be your own. You control your website, you own that, okay? You can do a lot of things once people get into that, but if it's YouTube, if it's Quora, if it's one of these other third-party sites, there's a limit to what you can do with that. So, but it's excellent for SEO purposes, definitely very good. Your activity on Quora can lead to better rankings, direct visits from Quora. There can be links that go straight back to your website, but there's some parameters on that. I'll talk about that in just a moment. And it's just the word of mouth popularity and the backlinks that come back to your website. These things all ultimately augment your SEO, and they will work. You will see it over time. It's not overnight, it's not gonna happen tomorrow kind of a thing. I mean, I've been writing on Quora for about going on 4 years now. I'm in the 6 figures as far as views, not as many shares of posts and that kind of thing, but I've gotten a lot of people hitting me up from internationally. I've got people from Europe, from Africa, from Asia that will hit me up because they read one of my Quora posts. Okay, so it's definitely got juice if you use it right. Additional things here, you can build goodwill for your brand using Quora. Now, goodwill is not something that people can readily quantify, but it is valuable. Anybody who's a business owner knows that you like to have that kind of goodwill. Just think about certain brand names that you have a warm, fuzzy feeling about when you hear it. You hear Chick-fil-A, especially from a Christian perspective, that they are a Christian-owned business. There's a lot of things that organization does that are in alignment with your faith and just things from a business perspective. I mean, they're killing it. They're absolutely killing it. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that video footage from when they opened that location in Texas. I don't recall what city, Houston, Dallas, something. I mean, it was gangbusters. I mean, name a time you go to Chick-fil-A and there isn't a line.
Wow.
Okay, so they're obviously doing some things right. Okay, so goodwill is definitely something that you want to build upon, and Quora is a great way to do that. Why? Because goodwill is something that is more or less derived from your putting out this good information that is meeting somebody's immediate question and probably helping a lot of other people that have the same question. Sometimes these questions on Quora, they get merged. You'll see people ask the same question several different ways, and basically they're kind of all talking about the same thing. What Quora does for you is they just merge all that stuff over time, right? So maybe you've written an answer to a question over here, and then you see something pop up in your feed, and you're like, wait a minute, I wrote an answer to something like this last week. Don't worry about posting another response. As a matter of fact, you're better off not doing that. Just let Quora merge it. Over time, it will happen. Okay, you're not going to lose any juice as far as where you are at in the pecking order of things. Ultimately, if you wrote the best response for that particular query, it will stay such when they merge it. So don't worry about that. Now, let me kind of move a little faster because we've got some other things to talk about. I don't want to get caught into the weeds of this, but the text is here for you guys to be able to review at your leisure. Definitely go and look at the minor wording of these things. But beyond goodwill, you can get your brand name out into the world, which will help you gain authority, popularity, and extend your awareness. Ultimately, people need to be aware of your business and you and what you do in order to come to you. This is a great way to do it. A lot of people don't necessarily know that you're an expert in something. This is a great way to show the world that you are. People will realize that and then start chasing you down to try to find out how they can connect to you. There is a profile that you will build out, just like anything. You got to build out the personal profile, the business profile. When you build out your profile, just a short but adequate, summary about your business, what you do, who you are. Provide a link in there so somebody can get to your website. So you don't put links necessarily just spam like, going back to your website from responses, right? Like, oh, hey, there's this widget that solves that problem, and hey, we build those widgets. Here's a link to my website. You don't do that. Okay, that's not what it's about. You should be looking at it from a very kind of arm's length perspective and you really want to not mention yourself directly unless you have to. And then there's a very artful way of doing it, okay? But if you just go ahead and throw a bunch of links in there going back to your website saying, oh, come to me, I'm the guy, you will get slashed by Quora. Okay, they do not like that. So they're very good at moderating their content and making sure that people are meeting a certain standard. So definitely use it, but be careful about how you do that kind of stuff. Now, the most powerful recommendation a business can get online is from a person that's recommending that business or its website to another person who ends up going there. You know, that's one of the real additional values from that word of mouth. Well, call it word of mouth sharing on Quora. Ultimately, people will become aware of you through other people on Quora. You know, somebody goes to Quora, reads a response, say, hey man, I heard about this company. This guy wrote this response. Hey, let's look into them. You know, maybe they seem to be the guy that's got the answer. So you're building authority. This is how it's done. You are seen over time as the person who's the top dog within that industry. It seems kind of foolish to think that people would take your writings on Quora over CNN, Fox News, you know, Business Journal, you know, Wall Street Journal, all that stuff, but it's equally as authoritative within a certain echelon. I mean, there's major players in the world that are on Quora. They may not be on there every day, and it's probably not them directly answering it. You know, let's say Warren Buffett's got a Quora profile. He may or may not, I don't recall. It's not Warren that's jumping on there answering those responses. You know, it's one of his steps. Hey, go on Quora, find a question and answer it for me for the day. Great. Well, that's usually not something that other people have to worry about. I mean, if you have established yourself as an authority, don't worry about other people like Warren Buffett or, oh man, you know, people are going to go to him first and not coming. No, you're answering questions regularly. People are seeing that, oh, you know what you're talking about. So they are definitely going to gravitate towards you. Now, although Quora may outrank you, and I mentioned this just before, for some of the keywords that you're trying to rank for on the search engines, don't worry about that. You know, as long as you're getting top Google listing, it shouldn't really matter to you how that's done, as long as it's done well. Now, this is a great point. Authenticity and true purpose. Those really should be the underlying principles to your writing on Quora. If you guys are going on Quora, I mean, yes, there's all these benefits, and we're talking SEO, we're talking, you know, traffic, we're talking, you know, a lot of establishing yourself as an authority. You know, that's all great, but you really shouldn't be writing it from that perspective. Know that those are ancillary benefits, but you should be going in there because you want to be, you know, the real McCoy, and you really do want to answer somebody's question. Like, you really want to help somebody out. If that's not why you're going there, a lot of that is going to come off in your writing. It's going to be like, oh, this guy's just trying to get me to go to his business. You know, you can tell. And people will downvote you accordingly. If Quora doesn't outright just smack you across the face and take that answer out, they can get removed, they can get sandboxed, that kind of thing. So just because you wrote it once doesn't mean it will be there forever. You got to write within the rules. If you do so, you'll stay up there. So that's kind of very oversimplified perspective on the benefits of Quora. Essentially, you can get paid to write. It's good for SEO, helps establish and build goodwill, and will definitely help you to become an authority within your industry online to other people, and obviously drive some traffic to your business as well. So I was mentioning these parameters and these rules that Quora's got about writing, right? So one of the things that I get asked a lot when it comes to that is it okay to link to your own website when posting on Quora? So the answer to that is yes. It is absolutely okay for you to link to your website in a response that you write. And I mentioned too, you're going to do that in your profile as well, you know, so people go to your profile, because this is a thing, right? People will see a very thoughtful response, a lot of information, great. Well, there's no link to this guy's website. Well, how do I find him? Click over to the profile, there it is, okay? So that's why you want to put it there, build it out the right way, so that if you're not writing responses that provide you an opportunity to artfully inject your own link of some kind, then you do it that way. But yes, you can do that. Now, linking to your own website should only be done as a citation context. Don't keep self-promoting. I mean, I don't even know how better to say that. You just can't go in there and just saying, oh, by the way, you know, I have this company, go there. that's not what you want to say. Try to look at it as unconnected to your business as possible. I mean, if you have something that somebody needs to look at on your website relative to the question that you're answering, and that is a supporting document, image, file, video, whatever, great. Then it has proper context. Go ahead and put it in there. If not, then don't do it, because you will get. Out of all the writings that I've done for Quora, I've probably been hit, that I recall, 2, maybe 3 times, where I got a response from Quora saying, hey, you kind of a little overboard there, buddy, trying to point people to your website. And I reworked the answer and got that posted back up. So just be careful, because it can happen. This low quality, just visit my site type stuff, that's not going to fly. And like I said before, the best approach is to focus on providing a useful response to the user, and that is going to get you what you're looking for. So I hope that answered somebody's question about how to write on Quora. So what I've done is I have gone through a bunch of requests for me personally, and just combed through Quora a little bit to find some things relative to a few subjects that we've talked about in the past, and that definitely people ask a lot about. So one of them is Yelp. Now, these are actually linked to the actual questions on Quora. So if you guys go to the Biz for Christ website, you click on the notes for the class, you'll be able to go to the Google Drive and download this. So at your own leisure, you can go, click, check out anything that you want. But these are real questions from Quora. Now, the first question here, being about Yelp, was just kind of a real basic question about how do you claim a business on Yelp. Now, this guy had a particular issue where his client, so he's in digital marketing, SEO, something like that. And he has a client who had a Yelp listing, and they lost the login credentials. They lost the password. And then whatever email that it's attached to, I don't know what the problem is, but there seems to be some issue with doing a password reset. So this guy's panicking, and he's like, well, how do I regain control of this thing? How do I get back in there? Well, it's kind of a multi-tiered approach. Okay, first thing you do is try to do a password reset, just like you normally would if you got locked out of something, lost your password, that kind of thing. If that email is something you don't remember which one it is, you don't recall, you don't have the passwords to that email, then you might find yourself in a different situation. Yes, sir.
We will have to go to.
Oh, yeah, no.
Can we find you on that website, Biz for Christ?
Biz for Christ, you'll find everything for the class, not just me or something that I've done, but you will find this class in particular. You'll be able to find the link that'll take you to YouTube, so you can watch the replay, and the link that'll take you to the notes.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. You have a good one. Thanks for coming. So essentially, if the normal approach of trying to do a password reset doesn't work, then yes, there are next steps that you would need to take. Now, because I don't know enough about this particular listing, I can't speak specifically as to what they should try, but there's a process where you can even engage Yelp directly and say, hey, here's my problem. Just engage them. They have tech support. This is what they exist for. So this guy's kind of doing a panic on what to do, and he should already kind of know the protocols. Now, here's an ace up your sleeve, if you want to call it that. So Yelp will merge duplicate listings. Okay, so what you could do is, if you really had to, you could go create a new listing for the exact same business in the exact same location, and then tell Yelp that you need to get these things merged, keeping the new account as the one in control of everything, so that you have the login credentials, you can get back in there. Okay, they will do that. Okay? You gotta make a couple calls, couple emails, but it's possible. Okay, so to whoever this gentleman was, don't know, whoever posted this question on Quora, that's what you should be doing, assuming he hasn't already done those things already. I don't recall when that question was asked. Second question about Yelp. So what do you consider to be a reasonable cost to advertise on Yelp.com? So I think everybody's pretty well aware of it, that you can advertise on Yelp. They will charge you an arm and a leg. And it actually doesn't make sense. The costs on what they're charging versus what you would normally pay are astronomical. So I put some numbers up here just so you guys can kind of actually see what I'm talking about here, okay? So Yelp charges you based on a CPC, which is a cost per click. There's a few ways you can charge when it comes to display advertising. So they will only charge you if somebody clicks on the ad. Okay, well, that can happen through an accidental click. Somebody could just be scrolling on their phone and oops, I pressed the ad. I didn't mean to press the ad. Let me back up and okay, well, you're getting charged every time that happens. Okay, competitors. This is a very nefarious thing that some people have done. Is a competitor will specifically go on there, put in certain search queries to find your ads, get your ads popping up, and just press them just to start charging you money. Okay, and this is a real thing. It does happen. So that's bad. Don't ever do that. Okay, but people who are very nefarious do these kinds of things. But that's how Yelp charges you on a cost per click basis. Now that turns into some really weird things when you look at the numbers. Some of this data is from recent studies and stuff. So this all holds water here. This isn't old stuff, but in other environments, you could be paying much lower, 30 cents per click for similar ads, similar businesses, similar areas. Okay, $40 or more for a click in more competitive niches like law. Online advertising, usually in a cost per milla, which is what a cost per thousand, cost per milla, that's what that means. It's a cost for every 1,000 impressions or displays, is much cheaper. I mean, if you look at what Yelp is charging, and these are real numbers, they are charging some advertisers $600 per 1,000 impressions, which means Yelp is charging approximately 1,000 times more than another platform would for a standard CPM rate. That's insane. Okay, that's absolutely insane. Yes.
When you say impression, is that just the ad? Is that
Yeah, it just showed the ad and not necessarily somebody clicking on it. So that, you know, it's nice that you got those impressions, but are you getting clicks? And out of those clicks, which ones were legitimate? And out of the legitimate clicks, how many converted? You know, there's ways to look at all this data so you can look at the efficacy of all of this stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the simple response is Yelp charges you an astronomical amount of money beyond what anybody else does for the same type of advertising. So could you better spend those dollars if you're going to spend them on display advertising with another platform like Facebook or Google Ads or something like that? Very likely you probably can. Okay, I'm not saying go out and do that. You got to look at all the ins and outs, you know, what makes sense for you. But ultimately, if you're thinking about advertising on Yelp, just know that you could do better. Okay. And I always say, you know, try to maximize what you can do organically on Yelp before you pay them any money, because there's not huge advantages to the pay. I mean, you could pay for the advertising, and one of the things they will do is do a competitor ad removal. Because if you guys have seen Yelp, you know at the top they'll throw in some ads that are usually competitors. That if you just skip past that, then you have to get to the reviews and other things that you want to do. Well, they'll take those out of the equation, so somebody, when they get your listing, just sees your listing information. I think that's a little erroneous in the thinking, because what that says is that there's value to removing something that somebody's probably skipping past anyway to get to what they really want out of your listing, which is to leave a review, read a review, or look at other relevant business information. So,
do they have the impressions, click-through conversion, click-through buy for industry, whether it's Yelp or Quora?
when you say that,
So, well, if you want to advertise on Yelp, there's a $10,000 budget, right?
right.
And they have you get 1 million impressions. Out of the 1 million impressions, you get 10,000 click-throughs. Out of the 10,000 click-throughs, we have a 1,000 buy.
Okay.
Do they have those conversion timetables on there?
Well, they have some numbers that they will present to you if you're looking to advertise with them, because they still got to do their whole sales pitch and get you all roped into the thing, right? They will have numbers that are indicative of somebody in that industry, but they are usually the best numbers from somebody in that industry. So they can show you this, like, wow, look at what this company did when they advertised with us. It's like, right, well, that's not necessarily a typical case. So they're always going to show you the best numbers for that industry, even if it's not necessarily holding water across the board. So just be careful about that. Again, sales pitch, you know, these guys are doing their jobs. They're trying to sell you on a product and a service. So just be aware that you could probably spend, when it comes to advertising, you could probably spend your money better when it comes to display ads and Yelp. So let's get out of the Yelp category. Let's go down to SEO. Looks like is our next one. So a couple of questions that we sourced from Quora on SEO. First one here, despite having improved rankings, there are very few visitors and why. So that's kind of I know it sounds weird. I know what he means, and I've dug into it a little bit more. So essentially, these people are doing SEO. Great. Now, they have improved the rankings on whatever keywords they were focusing on. One very good reason, and I put that as the top response here, is that possibly targeting the wrong keywords in the first place, like low volume, long tail keywords. Okay, it's not to say that those things don't convert, but there are going to be exponentially less people getting to your website as a result of that query. Maybe they do convert. Maybe you get a couple of sales out of that. Great. Well, it's not really the like big uptick you were looking for being page one on Google. Again, really what it really boils down to is the search term itself. It may not be voluminous enough to bring enough traffic for that to matter. The other side of that is your content. I put poor content here because essentially that's what's going to get people to convert. Okay, products, sales, service, whatever you're doing. Okay, they get to your website, you have some content to support what you do. Even if you don't have blogs and infographics, you at least have static content. When they got there, whatever they found relative to what they were looking for didn't work for them and they left. So even though they have generated some traffic, they've got some rankings, when they do finally get to the website, it's turning into nothing for them. Well, those are two primary reasons why. Poor content and definitely the wrong keywords, okay? So this is something, slight tangent here. This is something that is very typical of autopilot, just bag and grabbing kind of SEO companies. What they will do is they will specifically design a set of keywords for you to be interested in that are easy for them to rank for, but ultimately probably aren't going to get you much in the way of conversions. That way, they can show you vanity metrics like, hey, look, that keyword, it's got you on page one of Google now. Look it up, you're on page one of Google. And that is a real result. But if that space doesn't really produce any sales or conversions for you, it really doesn't matter. So what you should be doing, this is what we do in my agency, Digital Admen, is we look at keywords that are actually going to convert. We look at a lot of keywords. We do sometimes thousands of keywords, okay? What we do is we kind of group them based on volume, competition, and probable conversion, okay? These are the ways that you should look at it. Now, we still present our clients with the whole list. We're like, hey, look, 5,000 keywords. These are gonna bring in a lot of traffic. We don't know what's gonna do. These are probably gonna bring in less traffic, but they're probably gonna convert pretty high. And based on all that, we think you should pick these 10 or these 5, whatever your campaign's got. And it's up to our clients to make the decision, but we're gonna recommend that they do a certain thing based on what we really feel is gonna get them real impact. These guys don't care. Okay, if they were doing their job right, and I hate to say that, and I'm sorry whoever this is out in internet land, I don't mean to bag you like this, man, but if you're doing your job right, you would have pulled in the right keywords, made the right recommendations in the first place, and you would have been telling them, like I tell people, that SEO is not just a simple, situation where you build a website, build some backlinks, and you're done. Okay, it is very much more substantive than that, and if you aren't putting good content out there, when people do find their way to your website, they're not doing it. Okay, so content is key. We do actually have a presentation on that that we have done. We'll repeat it at some point here in the near future because people really do need to understand that content, quality content is key. It is king when it comes to SEO, and if you aren't doing it, you can forget about being page one of Google for whatever search term. Okay, won't matter.
Wow.
So second question that we pulled from Quora, how long does it take for keywords to work on Google? Now, what they mean is, how long is it going to take for all that stuff you're doing to get my website on page one of Google for the keyword you're working on? Well, that varies. Short answer is it takes potentially up to several weeks, maybe less, depending on the competition of the keywords and the competition pool. I have a very specific example I can give you about that. That's local here in San Diego. But before I do, the other side of that answer is it can take as long as 6 months to a year if it's more competitive. Now, that's with the same grind being applied, okay? I've got a local client. They are he assembles furniture, play sets, a lot of things. He's very, very good at what he does. He's actually has a degree in engineering, so it's not just some guy who's putting stuff together. Like, he has gone to school for this stuff. He's been doing it for 20 years. Got him a new website, got him, looked at a bunch of keywords that, were good options for him. He picked a certain set. We started working on that set, and within, I believe it was 2 months, we actually had him on page 1 of Google for all of the keywords that we're working on. Now, you look at that, you're like, my God, okay, well, it's a small competition pool locally, or even in general, like that competition pool for what he does is very niche. There are some big players like TaskRabbit, who is actually a subsidiary now of IKEA. So IKEA sells the furniture, TaskRabbit will put it together. Okay, so that's pretty much where the relationship lies. Now, TaskRabbit does other things, but there are numerous issues with TaskRabbit. You could look into those. Actually, we're going to be probably writing a blog about that here real soon. But ultimately, you might do better finding somebody like my client who's got the skill set, who has a proven track record of success, and can work out a number of things price-wise and schedule-wise. And it's not dependent upon the furniture coming from IKEA. Let's say you're just moving across the country. Well, you're not going to hit up TaskRabbit and get them to come in. That's a much harder pool, okay? And their rates, and you may not like how that works out for you. So somebody like my client would be a much better fit. Yes, sir.
You said those issues with
TaskRabbit's had a number of issues over the years, even prior to them being purchased by IKEA. Now there seems to be a little bit less. But one of the things, and my client knows firsthand because he actually used to be a part of the TaskRabbit pool, is that TaskRabbit is notorious for underpaying their workers. So if you feel like, hey, I'm getting this great price, I've got somebody coming to my house, they're putting up my entire IKEA bedroom set, great. Well, you're getting a great deal. Think about how much this person's actually getting paid. They aren't getting all of that money. Hey, TaskRabbit's still getting their cut, okay? You still gotta pay the tax man, you still gotta do all that stuff. So when you figure all those things out, they're really not making that much. It tends to be below minimum wage. So,
my point is that the user's problem? It would mean that they have high turnover rate. TaskRabbit has a high turnover rate.
yes and no. Is it the user's problem? Is it the customer's problem? Like they not so much your problem. You just choose to do business with somebody else. It's convenience, right? The people who go to IKEA, you've already spent a whole day going through the store, just trying to get out of there. So by the time you're done with all that, you've got your items, and at the register, you're like, hey, you want to, pay a few more bucks, have it delivered? Oh yeah, okay. You want to pay a few more bucks, have a guy come by and bill it up for you? Oh yeah, that sounds good. Okay, great. Point of sale, fatigue kind of purchasing. You don't think about it too much. You don't have time to sit there and you're like, wait, hey, let me run the numbers. Like, you're not doing all that. You're making a purchase decision in the moment, or maybe you do it after the fact. Maybe you've been down that road before, right? Like, how many people have purchased something from IKEA at least once, or know somebody that has? Okay, that can be a nightmare putting that stuff together, depending on what it is. The tools, it was missing a part. Oh, you just didn't read the instructions right. Oh, the instructions are a whole other thing. Everyone knows about IKEA instructions and how famously confusing those are with the pictures and the weirdness and all that. Well, that's something that you have to quantify. Buying the product, now am I going to spend a whole day putting it together and then running around trying to find the part that was missing? And sometimes it's just easier to just pay a guy. And sometimes IKEA has some really simple stuff, and sometimes it has very complex kind of stuff. Okay, sometimes all the tools are in the box. Sometimes you have to have another tool or two, and why deal with all that? Sometimes it's much easier to just pay a guy and just let him do his thing. Yes.
Do you have a rule of thumb budget for a company of 10 employees or less? How would you start out with? When you go to Yelp, Facebook, a budget for a company that's small.
Well, okay, I'll tell you like this. When it comes to advertising budgets, one of the things that we don't look at is the size of the company. What we do is just, we say, look, here are your goals. Here's the platform. Here's how we can best spend that money on that platform to try to achieve those goals. Now, smaller budgets, especially right now, I would say Facebook is a very, very good platform, but keep in mind, there may be some other environments that would be better depending on what your target audience is. When you're looking at display advertising just in general, the first thing you should do is, based on your target audience, discover what websites are even options for you to look at. Of course, people think, oh, Facebook, right off the top of their head. Well, Facebook, yeah, Facebook's good. You get a lot of reach. There's a lot of people on there all over the world, all types of different demographics, socioeconomic graphics, everything. Is that the right place for you to go or to start? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on what you're chasing after. If you're going after a very niche group of people, like I'm going for, people making 6 figures that have degrees that are looking to buy high-end real estate, You'll find some of them on Facebook, yeah, but maybe there's a different place where you'll find more of those people. So it's a process. This is a process that any good legitimate agency should be taking you through. If you say, hey, I've got this ad, budget, I want to spend it, where should I spend it? What's the strategy? What's the game plan? Here are my goals. I want to try to get more memberships, subscriptions, sales, products, whatever it is. That's something that they will do. And when they are done doing all that work, they will come to you and say, hey, based on what you're looking for, here are your options that we think are going to work best for you. Now, you can do your own research, but you should have a team that you trust that's doing that work appropriately for you. They should be able to vet those options and come back to you and feel really good about saying, hey, look, man, you should take that 5,000 and spend it with Facebook every month. Okay, here's what we're going to do with that 5,000, and kind of give you at least an outline or a construct of what their game plan is, which does change. Okay, this is another thing that you guys have to be aware of when it comes to display advertising. This isn't just set it and forget it. You don't just attach a payment source, throw up an ad and let it go. You have to optimize these things. There's data that is coming in that's going to tell you how to make that thing perform better. And there's an algorithm that is attached to the display advertising. Okay, it's not just click, oh, hit these people and goodbye. No, there is a program that's Facebook and Google and all these guys use to help display that ad, and it's learning while you're running it. So one of the things, I'll tell you this real quick, and I'll get to the next question, is Facebook. So one of the things we tell our clients is when it comes to Facebook advertising, you're going to spend approximately the first 2 to 3 weeks just getting the algorithm in sync with what your target audience is and delivering it and getting it to them at a time that they're actually online and when they're going to see it. Because Facebook doesn't really make money if you're not making money. They're just taking ad money. It doesn't really do them any good if they're not delivering some kind of conversion rate that makes sense for you. So they're learning that in the first few weeks. Your conversions are not going to be as high, but you're still spending the same amount of money. Okay. What you then get into is after that first month, the algorithm's pretty much synced up. But you have to keep your budget the same or go higher after that. Okay, that's another thing. I know it feels like you're just throwing money at Facebook and you're just like, well, Mark Zuckerberg's buying houses off my money. What am I getting for it? Well, there's a process to this. It doesn't change no matter what platform you're on. They all have the same thing. They have an algorithm. It's going to learn what you're doing, and then it will produce better results. You really are going to start seeing more results in month 2. Month 1 is just getting the thing working. Okay. Month 2, you'll see better results. And then after month 3, so you have at least 3 full months of data to look at. There will be some optimization recommendations. There should be from your agency, wherever you're working with, and they can say, hey, looking at this data, front end, back end, conversions, Google Analytics, here's what we should do with the ads. Okay, what, we're running one campaign, let's split that off. Let's go one campaign targeted to men, one campaign targeted just to the women, same other, metrics, and go that route. Because you can do different things with those display ads. If you're targeting different ethnic groups, you can put those ethnic groups in the display advertising. Obviously, advertising, especially display advertising, resonates more with people when they see it in like kind. If you are targeting a Latino group with your advertising, well, clearly you should have some Latinos in the images. Okay, if you're targeting a youthful group, okay, great. You want to put some young people in those images. Okay, it seems like, oh, that's easy, right? Well, it's not always rocket science, but there's a science and there's an art to this. And when people are applying these things professionally, you're going to get the result you're looking for over time. But this is not for you to try to have to figure out all the ins and outs of. If you do want to learn that stuff, just so you can just have more ammo in the gun when you're talking to your guys, great. Have that information, but don't sit there trying to learn this stuff to the point of being able to do it every day. It will take up way too much of your time, I guarantee it. But know about this stuff. It is good to know about. Yeah, okay, so that's the short of the long. I mean, it really can't just take, it can take a short amount of time or a longer amount of time, depending on the competition pool and the keywords. Okay, our third and final subject matter that we source from Quora is business and digital marketing. These are kind of general umbrellas. Our first question was, how does location affect the success of the business? Now, if anybody has bought a house, been in real estate, or anything in that industry, you'll know location. Top 3 things in real estate, right? It's location. Now, relative to business in general, right? We're talking usually residence, commercial, but this is a business of any kind. So research reveals that the location of business is the most important factor, or one of the most important factors contributing to its success. It can play a crucial role in the way a business is perceived by the public and potential customers. So sometimes just where you're at creates a perception that can adversely affect you or positively affect you. If you have an office space and you have a certain address like, you know, Trump Tower or, you know, like you have certain addresses, people already, you got an address on Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, okay, that means a certain thing, okay? So those are things that can help you or hurt you depending on what you're doing. And depending on what your business is, sometimes the right location, you need foot traffic. Okay, you gotta be in the right place to get that foot traffic. If you're not, then there's nothing that's gonna happen, you know? So these are things to think about when you're thinking location and the success of the business. So how does it do it? Well, again, perception. Sometimes it's a matter of location or the logistics of your operations, high volume foot traffic, and just establishing the legacy and reputation of your brand. So I hope whoever asked that question on Quora got a good enough answer out of that. Our next and last question is, what digital marketing strategies do you use? Now, this is a very vague question. Like they're just literally just asking anybody, like, what do you use? Okay, so me personally at our agency, this is a very oversimplified approach. Produce quality content across relevant channels to reach the target audience while creating opportunities for meaningful engagement with your brand via your website and social media. What does that all mean? Bottom line, I mentioned it before, you have to produce quality content. Okay? Content, especially quality content, is king when it comes to all this stuff. It matters for SEO. It matters for the user's experience when they get to your website. It matters for conversions. You have to think of it in terms of your own shopping experience or your own buyer journey. When you are looking at websites, when you're looking for a business to engage, when you come across a poorly designed website that's got just thin, outdated content, they've got no blogs, they got no information, you don't really want to engage or do business with them. You tend, if you look at your track record and you're honest about it, you tend to engage with businesses that have a good digital presence, okay? Very rarely do you go to some business online, see a jacked up website that hasn't been updated since 1995 and say, hey, this is the guy I'm gonna do business with. But there are tons of businesses on the internet and out there that do that, okay? And then they wonder, why am I not getting the success? Why am I not getting clients? Why am I not getting well? Your website doesn't even work. It's jacked up, it's jank, it's poorly designed. I can't find the thing that you want to get to. I know people who have fairly established ministries, online ministries. So YouTube is the main platform they're using. They've got a website, and you go to their website, and not only is it very, very poorly designed, the architecture is just off. You can't really find things. And I'm telling you, I've spent hours looking at these websites. There's no connection from their website back to YouTube. Not one. There's not one link. Not one. So how am I supposed to know that you even have a YouTube channel? And then let's say I get to your website from YouTube. Like, where's the segue? Where am I? That's insane. So you have to think about these kinds of things when you're developing a website and marketing strategies. But moving on. Next point, playing by the rules. Okay, I say play by the rules because there are always rules. Just like we mentioned earlier about Quora and their rules and their parameters for writing a response, there's always rules to the platforms that you're using. There are terms of service. There are very specific things that you should and should not do. So relative to those things and the platform and how you're going about things, you got to play by the rules, okay? Do that and you'd be surprised at how much better all this stuff works for you, okay? When you're not going against the grain, you don't have to worry about somebody, throwing you in the sandbox or, pulling your account completely, because it happens, okay? It can happen. Quick story. I worked for a national moving company some years ago. I was the de facto chief of marketing there for a while. And ultimately, they had done some very bad stuff before I got there with Yelp trying to game the system. Well, we got completely pulled as far as our access to all of our own listings. So people would leave reviews. I couldn't respond to any of them. I couldn't update the listing information, nothing. But we were spending money on display advertising with Yelp every month. So we're spending thousands of dollars with them a month. They're taking our ad money, but then I can't even log into my dashboard. Okay, so We broke the rules, they penalized us, they were still taking our money, and they were giving us no kind of love in any way, shape, or form. So people have this misnomer, they're like, oh, I can just pay the right amount of money, get out of there. No, okay, because we tried. I know for a fact that we tried. Not under my watch, but it was done by my predecessors before I got there. Ultimately, we did a huge mea culpa kind of a thing, and we were allowed back in. But Yelp pretty much told us, if we ever see you screw up one more time, that's it, you're done. So be careful, play by the rules. Last point I would say, as far as a digital marketing strategy that I use, or a component of it, would just be authentic and respond with sincerity. You would be surprised at how much just a genuine, solid, heartfelt response from the gut, but professionally done. You know, don't get your emotions involved to the point where you want to get to an argument online. It's not about that. Professional, be authentic, and respond with sincerity. I mean, I don't care if it's a review somebody's left you on Yelp. I don't care if it's a comment somebody left you on your website. I don't care if it's a post on Facebook, whatever. You have to look at this stuff, but look at it from the right perspective, not just in the moment, over time. What is my response to this going to be viewed as over time? Do I want to get into an argument, an online, match here? No, you don't want to do all that. Okay, you want to simplify the equation for yourself and for everyone else looking at that content over time. They're going to see, hey, this guy engaged, he was sincere, he was genuine, and even though this guy had a bad experience, oh, there was a hair in my food, and okay, whatever. We are trying to make it right. We're going to learn from our mistakes. That's what you should always be willing to say. Hey, we're human. We are not perfect. Google's not perfect. Apple's not perfect. Okay, how many times do they release a new iPhone, iWatch, whatever, and within the first week, oh, we got to call those back. We had some glitch. We had to get software, hardware, it doesn't matter. Okay, nobody's perfect. No company is perfect. So don't try to play like you are either. Be willing to just own up to your own mistakes. Say, hey, you know what? We messed up, but we are willing to do right by you, and we would like an opportunity to earn your business back. That's the way you should always approach it. Never turn a negative response, a negative review is never a bad thing. How you deal with it, that makes it good or bad. And we have had great success over the years with various clients all over the country, all over the world, in fact, where customer had a bad experience, went like that mile-long review, blasted them, called them everything but a child of God. And then you come in after the fact, you just simply put, hey, we're sorry that you had that experience. We do recognize that these things must have went wrong. We're willing to, do whatever we can to try to make you happier next time you come and see us. Do we have a chance to earn your business back? And that's the way you should put it, especially when it comes to platforms like Yelp. Do not ever put it in a context of you're bribing them, because you should never do that, and nor are you trying to do it. You're trying to sincerity engage and learn from your mistakes. So that's what it's all about. So if you guys have other questions, because I am on Quora, you can't actually specifically ask me to answer a question, which a lot of people do. I don't get to those as much as I'd like to. So this was kind of a way we get to some of the questions that have been hanging for a long time. The other thing is that, if you have a direct question you want to ask me, you better off just emailing me directly, Anton@digital-admen.com. You can also give me a call, 619-365-5429. Go to my website, digital-admen.com. Set up an appointment, schedule a call. I got no problem giving you as much, information as I can, helping you through your problem, but you have to be willing to engage, preferably along the lines I just mentioned about, authenticity, sincerity, and that kind of thing. So, questions from the audience?
Any questions, either on Zoom or here?
I was just gonna say, we got a couple people right behind you.
Yeah, good, here.
Oh, okay. I just had a few. I did just the very beginning. Do you work for Quora?
I do not work for Quora. No, I have my own digital marketing agency, Digital Admen, and I write on Quora.
Okay.
Now, that's something that I've done for my own personal and business reasons, but there is enough of that out there that Quora has asked me to write for them as a paid contributor, which I have not done yet. I will probably do it at some point in the future, but currently Quora does not pay me a dime.
Okay. So there's a couple of different sites, one being TikTok, and there's a couple of new ones that have come out. What is your statement on TikTok or any of the other kind of newer ones that have come after TikTok recently?
Honestly, I mean, I look at something like TikTok, and the first question that comes to mind is like, how different is this from Snapchat? And how different is this from every other video platform? They're all taking a twist on the same functionalities and themes. There's nothing novel there, not really, not enough to get my attention from a personal like use perspective. Ultimately, from a business perspective, there is an audience that those platforms attract. Relative to those people, if they are within your target audience for things that you're trying to achieve with your business goals, great. Then you want to look at what you can do there. Are there things that you can do with advertising? Absolutely. And those platforms do create a lot of opportunity to be creative. But you have to be willing to engage that entire process, the time, the cost, the production, all that stuff to see it through, and then play it out for a little while before you see those results. So it's not something that's just gonna happen overnight. Oh, I get on TikTok and do this. No. But there are perfect examples. I believe there was a young man from, it was a paint company. It was a very well-established one. I don't recall the name of it. Back Midwest East, something like that. He had this TikTok channel where he was just mixing up different paints, doing different things. Just, oh, let's mix this color, this color, this color. Had a killer following to the point where he actually put a whole presentation together. Now this kid's like 19, 20, something like that. Put a whole presentation together to take to the VP of marketing for that company. The guy didn't want to give him a meeting. Didn't even give him, fired him actually. He got fired for doing this because they were like, oh, you're playing around on the job. You're doing it. Sorry, gone. Fired him. He's got all types of juice on TikTok. And it was something very simple. Paint. I mean, paint. Come for the love of God. How do you make mixing paint interesting? Well, this kid was doing it, okay? And he gave them a perfect opportunity to take that to the next level, and they shot him down. Okay, so you should take that as, gee, there's a way to do something with this, even if it's something as mundane as paint, and you can make something out of it, but you gotta try to think that whole thing through. Now, I'm sure this kid didn't even start that channel for those reasons, but it became that. So he was just trying to do what any good person would do and try to take it to the next level, and he lost his job.
So there's a message that happened 2 weeks ago here at Skyline with the pastor, and it's putting God first. And one thing that hit me was putting God first with your business, either clients or your business to business associates. He mentioned it in slightly a different way, and it kind of hit me, and I was like, oh, when I hire those lawyers, when I hire these individuals, but when I engage the audience as well, which is maybe whoever it is that I'm the target market, how, and if there is a solution, I know that maybe it's not ethical on their sites, but how would I engage Christian to Christian business relationships, whether it be clients or with other co-leaders to work aside, so you go from best engagement, let's use that word best, to outside groups. Does that make sense? So how would I target Christians?
Well, targeting faith-based groups is no different than targeting any other demographic. Okay? You're identifying what that group is, and within that group, there are ultimately strata, right? Within faith-based groups, you're going to naturally have men and women. You're going to, depending on that faith and where it's located regionally, there will be different ratios to that. Okay, there are socioeconomic ratios. There's, you want to look, you want to identify them. Essentially, you want to build what's called a target persona or a buyer persona. There are different tools and a lot of things online that'll help you do that. You plug in all this data. You say, who am I really trying to go after, and what makes up their identity? Are they men? Are they women? Are they college educated? Do they have a certain income bracket? Do they live in a certain place? Do they have certain interests? When you boil all that down, you're going to come up with an identity. It's an archetype, okay? This isn't like every single person meets this perfectly, but that's pretty much what you're aiming for. Now, if you've identified a larger group like faith-based Christians, I want to deal with Christians, cool, there's nothing wrong with that. You have to present yourself in a manner as such that it draws that crowd, and then you have to go after those people on the platforms and the places where they congregate online and offline. There's ways to do that. Churches have websites. There are groups, on Facebook. There are faith-based social networks. And there are a lot of opportunities out there to engage. There's PureFlix, it's like the Christian version of Netflix. There's ways that you can reach this audience. The question then becomes, it's not a matter of how, the question then becomes, what happens when you do engage them? What are you trying to get them to do? Because based on what you actually want them to convert into, whether it's a subscription or membership, you want them to make a donation, you want them to buy your book, you want them, whatever it is, there's a way to approach that given all those factors. So again, it's just this, there's a science, there's a little art, you kind of mix the two, you come up with a path that is specific to meet your goals, and it works out. These are the things that we set up meetings for, and we charge clients for. So, I mean, ultimately, those are great questions. It's exactly the kind of questions that put somebody like myself in business.
I have one more, and then I'll toss it off to everybody else.
Sure.
So there's 4 websites out there right now that are more open to an open viewpoint. What is your stance on that? Like to advertise through, like BitChute, Rumble, America, OAN?
Okay. All right. Good question. It really boils down to, and you can look into this, these platforms, because they do sell advertising space and they have certain community pools, they are very good about trying to put out there some information about who's on their platform. At some point, it always comes up, like what makes up the audience on certain platforms, like Snapchat. Oh, that's good for people between this age and that age. Great. You're going to find that information available for these various platforms. Once you get that information, you're saying, okay, here's who's going to BitChute, here's who's going here. And if that's what you want to get involved in as far as reaching your target audience, great. There's going to be some opportunity that platform has to advertise there and do a number of things. Now, when you take paid advertising out of the equation, you're like, well, hey, if I want to organically engage on this platform with my target audience, how do I do that? Well, you most likely need to create your own channel or profile, and then you're going to need to do the standard social engagement that people do when it comes to go out to them, leave comments on their stuff, like their stuff, share their stuff, get questions asked through those threads. Like you want them to respond, great, ask them a question in their thread. You'd be surprised how, I mean, if they're doing things right, they got somebody keeping eyes on this kind of stuff. Now, maybe they see your question as something they should respond to, and maybe they don't. But if they're doing things on, on average, pretty well, they would see an opportunity in responding to you, and they would do it. Now, it depends on what you're asking. Maybe you're asking a buying question. Maybe you're asking a customer service related question. Facebook and social media networks have actually been kind of now made de facto 24-hour, ways to reach a business. It's just, you got a problem? Hey, my TurboTax isn't working. Go on the TurboTax Facebook page. Hey guys, my TurboTax isn't working. Here's a problem I had. You'll get a response fast, real fast. So it's all relative, but ultimately you can engage your audience and get the conversions you're looking for. It's just a matter of figuring out what needs to happen with that platform and what you're doing. Definitely. So did anybody else have any questions either here or online before we wrap it up for the day? No? Okay, all right. Well, I really do appreciate you guys coming out, and for the folks watching at home, looking forward to any questions, comments coming through the feeds on YouTube, that kind of thing. Definitely, you guys can go to my website directly, contact me, and go to bizforchrist.com. Check out the class, what's coming up next, and you guys have access to all the notes through the website as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anton. That was awesome. I heard a lot of new things I need to know probably, and things that I will probably still have to ponder. So thank you again very much. And I just want to say next week, we're going to have Ashley Cheek speaking on business plans, and she'll give us some more insight on what to do to really get that earnest money that we might need to keep our business moving. So with that, we'll close. And Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this precious time when we all get together. And I pray that each one of us will have travel mercies and will reach our destinations appropriately, Lord. And I pray for each one of us to return next week and just learn more about your loving grace and goodness in this world, Lord, as we each have to help each other and reach out to each other. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And God bless everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Right, you're almost done.